Haigh. I want to share with you a story within a story. I was born in Kenya, and 3 days after I graduated from veterinary school in Glasgow, I went back and started as a general practitioner and moved into more and more wildlife work. That's all very well, but the most important thing I did during those years was to meet, fall in love with, and marry Jo. In 1975, I came back to Canada. I came to Canada and got a job as a wildlife veterinarian. While I was in Kenya, and indeed in later trips, I did a lot of work on different wildlife, and I'd like to share with you a folk story about hippo. But it has a conservation issue as well, to which I will return after I finish the folk story. Now, the hippo, in olden times, in a time before time, lived on land. That was all it was allowed to do. The sun in the equator in East Africa came down with terrific heat on the bodies of the hippo, and they suffered terribly. It was a bad situation for them. They got sunburned, they were most uncomfortable, they tried to find a place to eat, but all they could do was graze. They could not go in the water. And they went to their king, Kiboko, and asked him to please go and plead with Haigh, the great god, who lived up on the mountain tops in the snow-covered areas, for permission to go in the water. Well, Kiboko had to listen to his people. So he did. He went up to the snow-capped mountains and asked to see Haigh. And he pleaded that his people needed to go in the water because they were desperate of all the heat. Well, Haigh took one look at him and said, no way, it's not going to happen. Think what will happen with those huge teeth of yours if you go in the water and you start killing all my fish. You start eating them, you eat the other creatures in the water, my fish will disappear. It'd be terrible. So, no, you can't have your people go in the water. Well, Kiboko went back to his people and told them the bad news. And they suffered for a while, and then suddenly the rains broke. And it rained and rained and rained every day, day after day after day. And it was cooler. And they could get out of the sun because the clouds were all over the sky. And they could hide under the trees. So they weren't worried about going in the water, except to drink, of course. Now, after a couple of 3 months, the rain stopped. The sun came out again, hot as ever, burning their skin. Desperate they were, desperate. It was so hot. And eventually they got desperate and went to Kiboko again and said, please, Kiboko, please go up and see Haigh, who lives up in the mountains, and plead for us to be allowed to go in the water. Well, Haigh thought for a moment and decided he'd take pity on the poor hippo. And Haigh said, okay, I'll allow it, but under 3 conditions. First, when you do your business, especially when you're close to the water, you must wave your tail to spread it around so I can check there are no fish bones in it. Second, you can only spend the day in the water. At night, you must go out and only graze grass, nothing else. And third, when you're in the water during the day, you must open your mouths ever so wide so that I can check there are no fish bones in your teeth or anything else amongst them. And so, that's what happened. Kiboko went back and told his people, and they did indeed go in the water, and they're very happy about it. Now, there's a conservation issue here. That story has serious issues about it because when the hippo do their business on shore, that's fine. But when they go in the water, they do a whole lot more, a whole lot. And they're constantly passing stool into the water. When they do that, the fish, which are only herbivorous, they only eat grass and other inanimate objects, come rushing over to where the hippo is doing his business. And they eat. Now, it's only processed grass, it's nothing else. It's just been digested slightly and processed. So the fish are getting their food, which they need badly. And so much so that the dominant fish go right up to the exit where the stuff is coming out. They go right up, very close, and it's kind of like a warm meal on a cold day. So that's great. But there's an issue here that we need to be aware of, because that material is vital for the survival of the water body and indeed the rivers. Without it, the fish will die. Now, I've told that story to masses of kids in Kenya and Uganda at schools because I hope that they will learn when they grow up that poaching hippo is bad news. It's something that does go on all the time, and their fathers do indeed poach hippo. And of course the net result is, if the hippo go, you've got a problem, because these people live by the lakes and rivers and they catch fish for their own food and also for selling fish in the market to generate an income. So what we have is a story within a story to tell the folks, and especially the kids, please don't poach the hippo. They're vital, they're keystone species for the survival of the lakes and rivers. Thank you.